Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Installment of Scott Selections here for Saturday, January 22nd. Before getting today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We really cannot recap what happened yesterday because we had a tennis match with Batista Agut on the money line at minus 108 on FanDuel. And at the time of recording, they are still playing. In fact, they're in the third set. Batista Agut's up a break. So hopefully close out the third. Hopefully we win the match, but fingers crossed, not going to jinx anything. Hopefully that pans out. But of course, we're gonna move on and talk about Saturday's card, which means it's UFC day because you have UFC 270, two title fights. I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to it. But besides the two title fights, to be honest, the card is not the greatest in the world. There is one fight I do like that's not one of the title fights. But another disclaimer, some of these plays will be controversial and some of them will contradict each other. So keep that in mind. But I have a good reason for it. Hear me out. Starting off with the non-title fight play that I have. It's a matchup between Stamann and Nurmagomedov. Don't worry, it's not Khabib. So don't worry about that. But we like Stamann to win by decision at plus 320 on Fox Bet for 1 unit. Couple reasons why. First of all, every other book has Stamann by decision at plus 250. So you're getting an extra 70 cents of value just by shopping around. Thanks a lot. I'm going to take that every time. Now, Stamann's a good fighter, been around for a while, and he is the decision king. He's had 23 career fights. 15 have gone to decision. Meanwhile, Nurmagomedov's had 16 career fights. 9 of them have gone to decision. Now, you're looking at the records and Stamann's recent form. He's been struggling a bit lately, but there is a good alibi. He's faced arguably the best fighters in the entire weight class. They're going through the recent fights, fought against Davalishvili, fought against Jimmy Rivera, fought against Song Yadong, and fought against the current champion, Sterling. I know you can argue that Jan should potentially be the champion, but whatever. The point is he's fought the best of the best, and I do think that Stamann should fare well against a weaker opponent in this fight. Meanwhile, Nurmagomedov has a pretty solid run going, but you look at who he's fought against, really nobody. His best wins against Ricardo Llamas, that is basically it. So I do think Nurmagomedov, despite looking sharp so far, will struggle with this step up in competition, while Stamann should look better against this weaker opponent on a Saturday. Plus, Stamann was a former D2 college wrestler, and he's definitely implemented a takedown game into his repertoire. And that's been the issue for Nurmagomedov so far in his career. He occasionally has some lapses with his takedown defense. I think Stamann should take him down a couple of times, sit on him, maybe win a couple of rounds in a boring, old-fashioned way, but either way, win a couple of rounds. Plus 320 for a guy to win by his preferred outcome, I do think is a very solid deal. I'm going to take that every time. And then we get into the title fights, starting off with Moreno against Figueiredo. I have one play on each fighter. That's why it's going to be controversial. We're going with the arbitrage method that we tried for the Lewis and Daukaus fight. That worked out pretty well. But for the Moreno fight, I got 3.2 units on Moreno on the money line at minus 178 on FanDuel. And to counter that, I have 1 unit on Figueiredo to win by decision at plus 500 on FanDuel. And you might be wondering why I have a play on both fighters. The main reason, because I think that the fight is going to end one of two ways, and I want to make money either way. So starting off with Moreno money line, he could win by knockout, by submission, or by decision. None of those would surprise me. Moreno won the last fight by submission, convincing fashion. We know that. But Moreno has been really good on the ground against Figueiredo in the past, as Figueiredo's takedown defense has let him down against Moreno. He's landed at least 2 takedowns in each of the first 2 fights. I do think Moreno's camp will focus a lot on implementing some takedowns into the fight, changing levels, keeping Figueiredo off guard, and I do think that should help. Plus, Moreno does have a 2-inch reach advantage. So in the stand-up, we know Figueiredo is dangerous, but Moreno could definitely use the jab, keep some distance, and definitely pick some shots here, which could help win by knockout. But that's why I like Moreno. That's why I'm sure a lot of you like Moreno to win this fight. But the reason why I like Figueiredo by decision is because just because he lost his last fight doesn't change the fact he was still extremely dominant before facing off against Moreno. We know the first fight was very close, ended up in a draw. Figueiredo probably should have won had he not gotten that point deduction in the 3rd round, but he's still extremely talented, and I do think that he has the skill set to beat Moreno by decision. But the main reason why I'm not picking him to win by stoppage is because Moreno is one of, if not the toughest fighter in the entire UFC. He's been in 24 career fights, and he has never been stopped. 0 knockout losses, 0 submission losses, and I'm not picking Figueiredo to knock him out or submit him now. We saw the first fight that I mentioned Figueiredo looked great in, ended up being a tie, but Moreno took some serious shots. He was getting battered, and he kept moving forward. Really tough guy. I don't think Figueiredo's going to stop him. And if you give me 5-1 on a guy who could outpoint him like he did in the first fight, with the exception of the point deduction, 5-1's a gift. And the main reason why I like both plays, if either one wins, you make 1.8 units of profit. So I'm going to take a gamble there and go for the 1.8 units on that fight. Now, looking at the other title fight, you have the Ngannou and Gane fight, which is going to be a hell of a fight. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be hopefully as good as advertised. But for the two plays on this fight, I'm taking the same arbitrage approach. I have 1.57 units on Ngannou to win by knockout at plus 165 on DraftKings. And I have 1 unit on Gane to win by decision at plus 320 on FoxBet. If either of those win, you make 1.62 units of profit. So let me explain my case. Ngannou knockout. I don't think I really need to make an argument. We know Ngannou is the most intimidating fighter, arguably, of all time. He can destroy everybody with one punch, send them to the emergency room faster than anyone I've ever seen. And I do think that Ngannou, if he connects flush with anybody, including Gane, it's over. So I do think that you have to have an Ngannou knockout as part of the gambling process in this fight, because any punch can really end it as soon as possible. Gane's never been knocked out before, but you look at his actual resume. He beat Derek Lewis, who he had a huge reach advantage on. He has beaten some okay fighters like Rosenstruck, for example, but this is easily the best fighter he's ever faced. And I do wonder if Gane, who has never been knocked out, can really handle the hardest punches, arguably, in the history of combat sports, which is by Ngannou. So I do think that one good punch could end it, which is why I'm taking Ngannou by knockout. And Gane by decision, main reason why, I'm sure Gane knows he can't afford to trade in the pocket with Ngannou. He's got to steal some strategy from Miocic the first time that he fought Ngannou, which is try to make this fight as long as possible. The only chance he really has, in my opinion, to win this fight is by wearing down Ngannou in the first couple of rounds, leg kicking, some wrestling involved. Don't do anything stupid. That's really the only game plan that he can stick with, which is why money has come in on Gane leading up to this fight. People expect him to do that. We've seen him use that game plan against Lewis, for example, use it against Rosenstruck. Gane is really content with making this a boring fight, which, of course, is bad for the viewer, good for him, but I'm sure he knows the best chance he has is to limit the, let's just say, chance of Ngannou taking his head off and trying to make Ngannou exhausted by going into the later rounds. And Ngannou had that 5-round loss to Miocic. That's the only time he has ever been into the 4th round, let alone the 5th round. So I do think that that is obviously the game plan, and Ngannou's never been knocked out before. I don't think he's going to be knocked out in this fight. Ngannou's really tough. He also has a little bit of ground game. So does Gane. So I do think that if it goes to the ground, Ngannou should defend himself well enough to avoid being submitted. But Ngannou's been to decision 3 times in his career, and he is 0-3. So I do think Gane will try to take it to the scorecards, and we'll see what happens there. But you're going to give me plus 320 for a guy, in my opinion, whose best method of victory is decision. I'm going to take that every time. But if Ngannou wins by knockout or if Gane wins by decision, you make 1.62 units of profit. So once again, couple of arbitrage plays here. It could go badly because if either outcome of the title fights does not go the way that we project, then you lose both bets. But I'm going to take that gamble. I do think that you're positioning yourself for a pretty solid chance at profit, and that's why I'm going with arbitrage on both fights. So to go through all the plays once again, I like Cody Stamann to win by decision at plus 320 on FoxBet for 1 unit. I like Moreno to keep his belt on the money line at minus 178 on FanDuel for 3.2 units. I like Figueiredo to win the belt back by decision at plus 500 on FanDuel for 1 unit. Once again, that arbitrage pays out 1.8 units of profit. Then looking at the other fight, I like Ngannou to win by knockout at plus 165 on DraftKings for 1.57 units. And last but not least, I like Gane to win by decision at plus 320 on FoxBet for 1 unit. But once again, 2 of these plays will automatically lose. It's risky, but I do like the upside on the arbitrage plays. So those are, once again, my thoughts. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.